I want to close this conference with 3 thoughts, which I believe are 3 thoughts of encouragement. And I'm trying to close the bracket which Maya opened today in the morning. And I'm doing this, and I want to say this before I start, with a very deep sense of gratitude, because I think this day was, it was very enriching, and it was such a pleasure to see what happens when you bring people who have not met before, at least in most cases, together in one place, and then this amazing dynamic unfolds, which I sometimes experience, and it always gives me goosebumps, because I could see that here and there, you know, some lasting connections were made, and I think this is really the ripple effect we were hoping for when we decided, okay, we will put all the work that goes into such a conference into this conference and do it. So that's great. Thanks for being here, and thanks for well, going with this flow. So. Well, I already threatened you with bringing us back to the meta level, and this is what I'm trying to do now. And it's going to be 3 very brief thoughts, and I hope they're provocative enough to basically give you a bit of stimulation when you go back and process what you heard today, which I think were very different impulses, but I believe there are red threads, and they will all make a lot of sense if you fit them into the broader frame. So, let's go back to a very basic thing, and I think this is something where we need to be more courageous, especially in public debate. And I say this to you as change makers, especially. So, as you all know, democracy originally only signifies the rule of the majority. But when we talk about democracy, we of course mean something which is a lot more. Arguably, we don't even talk so much about the majority principle when we talk about democracy today. We talk about the rule of law. We talk about a humanist worldview. That is the core that differentiates our systems from systems like China or Russia, which also stick to the majority principle, right? This is not a differentiating factor. And what lies in this thought, I think, is something very valuable. That we need to be bold when it comes to killing the sacred cows in the room. And I think we're not bold enough today in the public debates, right? We need to start talking about how we can shift the default mode of the democracy we know to something which is new and which can give birth to dynamics we have not yet seen and experienced. And I think it was amazing to have Erich and Adela here today, who basically gave us an alternative to the majority principle. So that was, it seemed like coordinated, but they actually applied, so that was really great. And as you all know, in the public debate, a couple of books have come out which actually question the majority principle, and I think this is actually, it's one of the weakest links in the democracy we have. At the same time, we do know, and I think many of you talked about this today, that we need to strengthen participation, but not just by, you know, building more channels in the existing system, but by making participation smarter in a system that as a whole is smarter, and that as a whole understands that we need to protect the whole, which we are part of. And then it starts to make sense. And then it starts, for me, to be really interesting to talk about participation, which in the current frame mostly tends to be a pain in the ass, right? And I'm not a huge fan of direct participation in the existing system we have, because it tends to stress the negative sides of the democracy we have today. So, that is my first thought. As you see, I'm not sticking to my talking cards now, Laura. You inspired me today. Yeah. So, let's go to the second thought. As you all know, inequality tears societies apart today, globally as well as nationally, and I briefly touched upon this when I spoke in the morning. And yeah, we can talk about the redistribution of wealth in the existing system, and I think we have to. And I think we have to do this very intensively. But the core issue really lies in separating the capitalist market from democracy. As Lance told us, where's Lance? There you are. Yeah, for a long time we have been told that a free market equals a free society. Today we know, Thomas wrote a book about this as well, by the way, so you can do some reading. The market and democracy pretended to be Siamese twins and formed an unholy alliance which basically threatens to tear our societies down, right? And this is something which we really need to start thinking about very radically. Because even if you think you're part of the political center, especially then, because we need radical reform, and I think this is also something which we saw when Maya talked today in her keynote, we need radical reforms if we want to keep the whole. So radical reform is actually in the interest of the center. And radical reform needs to become part of mainstream politics in the next years, rather sooner than later. So if you, as change agents, shy away from words like radical and from paradigm shift and transformation, what have you, or reduce these words to meaning which fit the current paradigm, you're deeply flawed, because you can use the energy you have, this amazing change energy we felt in this room today, to push the mainstream actors towards embracing something which they will be embracing sooner or later anyhow. Probably because of disasters, but I think if we're quick enough and if we start moving now, we can still build meaningful new systems which enable us to live a life in dignity as the global community and as an ecosystem which right now we're destroying. But I don't want to go down this depressing road again, so I'm just going to skip these parts, okay? So, it's kind of hard to find a thin line between encouragement and just being realistic. Well, whatever. And I want to refer again to Maya when I introduce my third and last thought. She brilliantly explained and showed us in her models that climate change is an issue of existential importance and is an issue which really needs reframing. It needs different paradigms. The way we look at the world needs to change in order for us to be able to tackle it. And it is perverse when you think about it that today we are still linking the legitimacy of our democratic systems and of our achievements as governments to levels of economic growth and material well-being, while at the same time we know that this way of doing, of working and of producing is basically destroying ourselves. So we're developing a kind of permanent schizophrenia, which is especially painful to see when you look at the Green parties, the parties on the left liberal side, and Social Democrats. It's just absolutely insane, because not even logically it makes sense, right? I mean, many people say, okay, well, these people didn't really get it because they haven't actually experienced it with their gut and their heart. And I say, yeah, it's true, we have a problem when it comes to the, we're very head-focused, head-centered when it comes to how we do politics. But even when you think about it in a logical way, it doesn't make fucking sense, right? Right. Yeah, you have to beep this in the video. Right. But I want to encourage you to push this out there very forcefully wherever you are, because I don't think we have the time to be tame and polite and leave people in their nice comfort zones. I'm just so sick of it. And I want to transport some of my anger and my fear and my sadness into this group, because I think you all have it, right? You all have it. We all have it. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah. But this is what makes us real when we're in public and when we speak. If we blindside this anger and this fear and this anxiety, people will not actually feel us. Right? So this is where the energy is, and I want you to tap into it when you do what you do. So. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. So there's an emotional and there's a very spiritual dimension when we talk about the transformation of democracy, right? Which also means talking about the transformation of ourselves. So I think it's important to talk about this, and this is where part of the solution lies. And I want to include this little cliffhanger because currently, or for the last 1.5 months, I've been dragging myself through writing this paper on the stuff I was just talking about, and it's not easy to wrap my head around it, but I feel it's really important to put thought into it and energy into it and just to get it out there. And if only 3 people read it and 1 person does something with it, it's already worth the time invest, right? So I want to encourage you, please do the same. I really feel, and I mean, I used to be such a cynicist guy a couple of years ago, but the more I do, and I think this is an experience many of you share, the more I do in the public space, and the more I bring the parts I really care about into the public space, the more dynamic I create. And it's a beautiful feeling which enriches my life and which hopefully also enriches society. And all of us can do this, right? And so I want to, it's kind of like a mess now, but I really want to, I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to do this.
I have a dream.
Yeah, I have a dream. I have a dream. Yeah. All right. That's beautiful. So I skipped half of my speech, but whatever. I want to close with a couple of thank yous. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming and for being here, for spending the time with us. Not everyone is here for the whole day, but even the guys who just popped in for one session, I heard they enjoyed it. They felt that there was a very good energy in this room, and I think it's great we co-created this today. I want to thank the Federal Ministry for Family Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women and Youth, because they provided the funds for this, and it's amazing that they made this project possible. They made it possible for us to build a team at DPZ, to print nice stuff like this. So I really appreciate this, because a couple of people had to, well, very vehemently argue for this project, and this is what I really respect. I want to thank you, Laura, for putting up with me and for driving this project so forward in such a smart and forceful way. I think it's a blessing to work with you. And Sophie, you were amazing over the last weeks. You're a blessing for this team. And without your tremendous amounts of energy and your positive vibes, this conference would not have happened. So I can't thank you enough for doing this. It was great. I want to thank the DPZ team as a whole, because a lot more people helped us co-create this experience today. So it's great that you did this. I thank you very much for investing the time, the energy, for coming for such a long day. I hope you're enjoying the half-free day off tomorrow. I think that's what's happening, right? Yeah, it's a half. It's a very German institution. I don't know what to say. Linnea, I want to thank you for the fabulous moderation here on the main stage. That was great. Thank you for doing this. Yeah, and most importantly, of course, I want to thank all the session hosts. I want to thank you, Robert, and I want to thank Maya Gope for applying, for replying to our emails and calls, for actually coming here, for writing for the final publication. Without you, it would not have been possible to do such a day. And I'm feeling very, very grateful that you all came. And now enjoy, Laura, I want to ask you on stage because you wanted to say thank yous with me. Now I did everything alone. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm used to that now. No, you said it all really nicely. The only thing I have to add is...
Up there.
Oh. No, I think...
No, I think...
No? The only thing I have to add is that I want to get the team and all session hosts on stage to take a family photo in the end. That would be really important for me. And then the next minute we go downstairs to have a drink together and to close this fabulous day. That's everything I had to say.
Thank you.
Thank you all.